Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 38.
Chapter 38.
Chapter 38, Envisager. Kaladin drifts in and out of consciousness. He imagines himself at home as a grown man where he no longer fits in. Sometimes he opens his eyes to perceive a warehouse full of corpses. Sadeas spies corpses, though they still walked. Time passes. He should be dead, but he must not fail Bridge 4. He ruminates on why Lamaril had said that bridgemen weren't supposed to survive. He sees Deathspren, fist-sized and black with many legs and glowing red eyes. They whisper. They terrify him. Very few see Deathspren and survive. A tiny figure of light, noble and feminine, stands guard on his chest holding a sword made of light. The light wards them off, but he sees more Deathspren each time he's lucid enough to look. Teft takes guard over an unconscious Kaladin. Bridge 4 walks a fine line. They were allowed to cut Kaladin down and stash him in the back of their barrack. No one has stopped them from taking care of him. Yet. Even Gaz visited Kaladin, though he merely snorted in amusement. Sadeas can't take any action without losing credibility. He'd given Kaladin's fate to the Stormfather. Teft wonders why, after so many watched and waited, has he come here of all places. He seems to think Kaladin is some sort of person the Envisagers had been waiting for. Teft pulls out some diamond spheres, glowing with stormlight. He won't give up on Kaladin. He wraps Kaladin's fingers around the spheres. Kaladin gasps and inhales. The glow in his hand fades. Light emanates from Kaladin's body. Slowly, and not by much, his wounds begin to heal. The light fades. Teft is in shock, wondering, why now? Why here? And why me? He can't let Kaladin heal himself too quickly or it would look suspicious. Then he thinks that he must tell the Envisagers. Except they're all gone. Dead because of something he had done. Born from the darkness, they bear its taint still, marked upon their bodies much as the fire marks their souls. I consider Gashosh son Navamis a trustworthy source, though I'm not certain about this translation. Find the original quote in the 14th book of Seld and retranslate it myself, perhaps? So, two things stuck out to me about this. Gashosh son Navamis is a specific naming convention, yes?
Yes, it seems like the Zeth one.
Yeah. I'm totally blanking on what their names are, too, right now. If I can just open up the map. Shinovar, that's what it is.
Yeah.
The Shin. So that's noteworthy. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the translation. If this is a mistranslation, if it's not a good translation, what could a better translation mean from what we get here?
Marked upon their bodies much as fire marks their souls. Maybe it's something that it could be like fire actually kills them or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what extra information we could get. Maybe she's trying to figure out who these or what these Voidbringers are, I suppose. And that makes me want to look for next time because I'm sure there will be a next time, that Shalon sees those or draws those dark figures or whatever. I would like to see if there's some sort of, they bear the taint, there's some sort of mark on these people to see if she's seeing them.
Yeah. I also thought they didn't sound wholly different from how we hear of the Deathspren appearance.
In this chapter, yeah.
Yeah. So they seem like these dark spider things with glowing red eyes, very voidish, dare I say. But on to the chapter. In the Kaladin POV, we get him diagnosing himself repeatedly in between bouts of consciousness, and I really liked that as a literary device.
Yeah. Shows how his state of mind is. He's just floating, basically, and his immediate instinct is always to go to his knowledge,
Yeah,
his source. It's like I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a great way to show how out of it he is, but also how knowledgeable he is as well at the same time.
and it comes off the heels of the chapter where he's like, I want to be a doctor.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it makes you wonder, okay, so what happened? He was taught by his father, he knew a lot, but it seems like, yeah, he learned even more.
Hmm.
Or are we supposed to believe that all of this is just all he knew from when he was a kid, which would make him like a little bit of a prodigy, a
Well, he
prodigy.
is a prodigy, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I suppose he's pretty good for. He was pretty good for a kid, and you can see it now
Yeah.
because he has a lot of knowledge, even though I don't think he got any sort of formal training.
I yeah, because I don't think he ended up going to Carbronth, but I do
Yeah.
really want to see now what the circumstances were that made him a soldier.
Hmm. Yeah, because we have that confirmation he didn't want to be a soldier, actually.
Yeah.
So
And then we get his first unconscious image, which is him with his family, and they're like, "What happened to you? You wanted to be a doctor." And he's like, "I don't fit in here anymore," which is probably true.
yeah, definitely, he's changed a lot since then. And we know that with our flashbacks, obviously.
Hmm.
But who is he now? What's happening? My favorite bit is Syl. Oh my goodness. Syl with the sword of light, keeping off the
Yeah,
death spring. Like, I think it's not just symbolic. She's literally helping him stay alive.
I 1000% agree with that. I think she's having a
Mm.
very real aiding effect. And I'm
Mm.
getting radiant vibes from her. Like maybe she's a departed radiant or something, because she's got the
Yeah.
angular face, the sword of light. It's
Hmm.
neat.
Yeah. Oh, she's so cute.
We get Kaladin fuming over Lamarel's revelations. And he's thinking, how dare they? How dare they? How dare they survive by killing me? So he knows, I think, now, yeah, they are killing bridgemen to protect others' lives. Like, in a bad way, because it's so twisted.
Mm.
They aren't killing enemy soldiers to protect civilians' lives. They are killing their own slaves to protect their own
Hmm.
soldiers, when it should be a
Yeah.
reversed way.
They should have soldiers protecting soldiers. They don't allow the bridgemen to be soldiers, which is what
Hmm.
what he has done. What Kaladin has actually done. What he did, obviously, it obviously didn't turn out amazingly, but it was an option. It was a tactic that could have been done, but nobody was considering that because no, we just need to throw the bodies, literally the warehouses of corpses, at this thing.
Yep.
So that was also quite stirring that he sees the barracks because he obviously he's out of it, so he sees the barracks as a warehouse, and then there's just walking corpses, which is that is a good description of what a bridge crew is doing.
Yeah. And then we get into Teft's POV, and we get some
Hmm.
interesting insight into who he is and what burden he's carrying. So he seems to be responsible for the death of some sort of order of people who have been awaiting some sort of messiah of some kind, some sort of figure.
Yes, they have envisaged, if you will, a future with this messiah thing, this person, and he goes like, why now? And it seems like he didn't really believe it before, and now it's actually happened right in front of him.
Hmm.
it, do you get the feeling he is an envisager,
Teft, yeah, I think Teft is and or
but
was an envisager.
a faithless one now in all be since that whatever has occurred.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It seems that this storm sorcery that Kaladin is doing is what makes Teft think Kaladin is this figure that the Invisagers have been waiting for. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that is it's like you're the chosen one. The fact that you manifest this ability is makes you this guy.
Right. And
Mhm.
it rubbed me as more that than surviving the high storm, although they probably feed into each other. So my question is,
Mm.
what would Teft think if he saw Zeth doing the same thing? Because Zeth can
Mm.
clearly do this. So what I want to know is Teft not necessarily fooling himself here, but clearly they don't know enough. There's information missing. As Zeth thought in that early chapter, the knowledge of this kind of magic has been lost or warped. So I'm saying I don't think Teft knows the full truth, only what he has been taught.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily. He thinks this coming again has significance, but I don't know that it could be part of a wider religion or belief that somebody with this power will come along and he won't be of the Shin and he won't be of this and that. So, somebody will manifest this power and do other works that will make them the Messiah. Or they could think, okay, this is a problem. If there's two of these people that can do this, that makes my religion completely unfounded. But maybe the surviving of the storm and things like that, it's part of a whole prophecy. I would
Yeah.
need to know more. And we obviously in classic Sanderson style, we only know a little bit. We just know we don't know. That's all.
Yeah. It'll be drip fed to us in bits and spurts until we get to the last 10 chapters or so of the book, in which case it will avalanche.
Hopefully, but we're far off from that anyway.
So far off.
I got excited. I was excited that because I was worried about Kaladin. Like, obviously, main character, whatever. But I'm like, what is happening? How is he going to heal? This is what is it just going to be a miraculous? Wow, he's just got a lot of strength. But this is good. This is great. The fact that he brings these charged spheres up,
Yeah.
and actually we see what does happen to Kaladin. And usually we see that we kind of get a shimmer or whatever, and it's in battle that this is happening. He's in action that it's when it's happening. So we never people are like they're not sure what they're looking at.
Right.
Whereas yeah, we've got him just lying down, and then literally we see what we've been suspecting the whole time, and like surface wounds healed themselves up and things like that. So I'm like, this is actually him saving Kaladin's life, and he's going to keep getting stormlight sphere infused spheres for him, and he's even thinking about how he's going to make it look. He's like, no, I need to I can't make him heal too fast, so that's another thing. So he knows about this magic. He knows that this is it's pretty powerful. What I was really wanting to get an understanding of was like, why isn't he supercharged in the storm? Because stormlight is in the storm.
Yes, but I think it's that he only had the one sphere.
Oh, you need a sphere for it?
I think so, or at least that's what the legend says. You need a sphere to light your way. So if he went in with
No, but
like 10,
yeah, but I'm saying like a person of this magic should be able to absorb stormlight from the storm, but I guess you have to be absorbing
maybe it
and
needs to be
uh
filtered or diluted.
yeah, yeah, in something. Yeah. Does it you can't you probably can't take it directly from the storm, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because that's what I remember. That's what I was expecting. That somehow it's going to be supercharged, and it's actually not going to be bad or whatever. But nope. You need spheres,
Yep.
and his survival has a political significance in the camp.
That's true too. It will have a very
Mhm,
big thing. So here's the thing. Teft makes this decision not to heal him all at once.
mhm,
And I think that's a wise decision because if he came out tomorrow like everything was peachy keen, there's a supernatural element at play. But if it
mhm.
happens slowly, then Sadius can just say he got lucky, send him back out with the bridge
Yeah,
crew. Although Sadius might not want him to because of what happened. Basically, he could still be treated like shit if he heals slowly, whereas you gotta do something if he magically heals in a day.
Or if he magically heals in a day, that's gonna, yeah, it's gonna cause a whole bunch of just unrest,
Yeah.
shock in the camp. Sadius, he's gonna actually draw too much notice in from Sadius, basically. So he's already a problem to Sadius because he survived,
Hmm.
and yeah, we he also can't go and now make sure that Kaladin dies
Yeah.
himself, because that would be like he's taking a hand in it, and he was wrong about judging this man. Like, you're supposed to, if you leave a man in the storm and he survives, that's supposed to be like, when they did trial by combat or whatever, it's like, no, if you win, it means that you weren't lying. So it's like, okay, if he survives the storm, it means he deserved to live, and he's done his time, essentially. You can't do more to him now. That's like a central tenet of their religion or their culture that he can't really go past. But Teft is clever. He knows that the other lords or light eyes around Sadius might just do him a favor by killing Kaladin. So he's going to have to watch him. They do have to watch
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Anything else to say on this chapter?
I'm just excited for maybe there's some more knowledge about this magic, and Kaladin then not being told he can do this and being conscious of it. So what do we get? We get. I want to see Kaladin play around with magic, basically.
Yes.
But it's going to be a while before he heals up, and we're probably going to land up with Shalon or Dalinar or something in the next
Yeah.
chapter.
Speaking of which, this has been a short chapter, so do you have time? Do you want to do blind right now, or are you
Yeah, we can do it.
okay? Unexpected blind. Let's go.
How many? 1 minute left in chapter. It keeps saying that.
What?
Doesn't make sense. This is quite a long chapter.
So
Okay.
I've got
Mhm.
page 693 to 704. So
Mhm.
about 11 pages or so.
Let's go. Chapter 39.
Chapter 39. Burned into her. Within a heartbeat, Alizarv was there, crossing a distance that would have taken more than 4 months to travel by foot. Okay, well first off, I'm guessing Alizarv is one of the Radiants. Not the Radiants, the guys above the Radiants. Yezrian and so on.
The Heralds.
The Heralds, that's the one. But also, this clicks with those stairs or those steps mentioned in the
Mhm.
previous or a previous thing that were supposed to be so big that people had to crawl up them.
Mhm.
Another folk tale, this one recorded in Among the Dark-Eyed by Calanam, page 102. Stories of instantaneous travel and the Oath Gates pervade these tales.
Oath Gates? Hmm.
Most important words a man can say? Oaths? Spellcasting, perhaps, of some kind?
Hmm. More mysteries. Look, we don't know. We get it.
Right.
We're reading Sanderson.
Shalon's hand flew across the drawing board, moving as if of its own accord. Charcoal scratching, sketching, smudging. Thick lines first, like trails of blood left by a thumb drawn across rough granite. Tiny lines like scratches made by a pin. Okay, so she's drawing.
Are we gonna see more dark things? Like I said, I want that.
I want that too, but I specifically really want to know if she is sticking around after having stolen the thing or not. I want to know if she intends to return it. Like if she's just trying to scare Yasna into making her think her thing broke and then switch it back, or if she's really gonna take it for good. Hmm.
Where would she hide it? There's all these things. Like if her running straight after it breaks would be very
Suspicious.
suspicious. So I understand her wanting to stay with that, but
Yeah.
yeah, there is a lot, because if she gets searched and there's a functioning one, hmm,
The thing is, I think Shalon, I mean, she's been able to successfully keep the hidden one hidden
Mm.
up until now. So that
But
I'm
nobody was
less
looking
worried.
for it.
That's true.
But then again, they wouldn't be looking for it. They'd know that if this just breaks, they're not gonna be looking for another one. Why would they think there's another one there?
Right.
Why would they think there's been a theft?
No reason to that I can think of,
No.
unless someone
They could
else.
just be like, "Oh, it's
Capsule!
broken." Mhm. Unless Shalon Yasna notices it's not the same one, even though it looks like there's something about it that she would be able to tell it's not the
Yeah.
same.
And that's a big wonder that I have too, is if
Mm.
she'll be able to know right away. If it doesn't accept her thumbprint or her face ID
Mhm.
or her
Yeah.
passcode
Yeah.
or her two-factor verification. A single ruby brome cast a bloody light on her sketch. Usually, to produce a vibrant drawing, she had to consciously memorize a scene, a blink, freezing the world, imprinting it into her mind. She hadn't done that during Yesna's annihilation of the thieves. She'd been too frozen by horror or morbid fascination. Despite that, she could see each of those scenes in her mind just as vividly as if she'd deliberately memorized them, and these memories didn't vanish when she drew them. She couldn't rid her mind of them. Those deaths were burned into her. Yeah,
That's the
traumatic.
name of the chapter. Roll credits.
Oh, nice catch. I had already forgotten that. Good one. She sat back from her drawing board, hand shaking, the picture before her an exact charcoal representation of the suffocating nightscape, squeezed between alley walls, a tortured figure of flames rising toward the sky. At that moment, its face still held its shape, shadow eyes wide and burning lips agape. Yasna's hand was toward the figure as if warding or worshipping. Scary.
Scary.
Vivid.
I wonder if we're gonna get any of these like later on. If we sometimes get drawings in between chapters, it would be cool to see that.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Mm.
wondering if something about these drawings will be what teaches Shalon to use the Soulcaster.
Mm. Yeah, it might as well see what it's up. And she knows now that you can Bluetooth soulcast. You don't have to actually be touching someone.
Hmm. Shalon drew her charcoal stained fingers to her chest, staring at her creation. It was one of dozens of drawings she'd done during the last few days. So she's been here for a few days since then. Okay, good to know. And
Mhm.
she hasn't been caught yet.
Nope, clearly not.
The man turned into fire, the other frozen into crystal, the two transmuted to smoke. She could only draw one of those two fully. She'd been facing down the alleyway to the east. Her drawings of the fourth man's death were of smoke rising, clothing already on the ground. She felt guilty for being unable to record his death. She felt stupid for that guilt. Yeah, the dude tried to kill you, essentially.
That's you. You've forgotten that completely, and also like you didn't do it. And yeah, they're thieves. And what? You're sorry you didn't see him die?
Logic did not condemn Yasna. Yes, the princess had gone willingly into danger, but that didn't remove responsibility from those who had chosen to hurt her. The men's actions were reprehensible. Shalon had spent the days poring through books on philosophy, and most ethical frameworks exonerated the princess. That's
Okay, so
interesting.
because the book said it, she's a bit more comfortable with it. But her initial reaction was like, no, her her actions were reprehensible. It's bad. But now she's had a little bit of time to think about it. She understands, yeah, their responsibility. That's where I was with. It's like, yes, I understand. It's she Yasna took the risk, but they made the decision to attack her. And that is more severe than the decision to walk in a dangerous place. You're breaking a huge rule by attacking someone.
Yeah, it's
Or are you still against Yasna? You still think it's reprehensible? Are you with pretty Shalon?
I think as soon as those people made the choice to attack them,
Mhm.
they invited in whatever response was to come.
Mhm. Yep.
But I cannot get past the fact that she deliberately, she went looking for it to happen. She deliberately went searching with the intention to kill people that night. And just it shouldn't have been a situation in the first place. So
Mhm.
as much as I'm annoyed by Shalon for her arrogance, I think I'm with her on this, or at least from the
Mhm.
last chapter. But Shalon had been there. She'd watched those men die. She'd seen the terror in their eyes, and she felt terrible. Hadn't there been another way? Kill or be killed. That was the philosophy of starkness. It exonerated Yasna. Actions are not evil. Intent is evil, and Yasna's intent had been to stop men from harming others. That was the philosophy of purpose. It lauded Yasna. But what about Yasna's intent? Her intent was to kill people. Her,
Mhm.
why does
But her intent was
why does her intent
her
begin the second the other people attack first? Yes, they're attacking. Yes, they are physically attacking first. Sorry, I've already said it. None of it's good. I'm not arguing for anyone to do any of these actions.
Yeah, I think that's where Shalon is at. She's like, it still feels terrible. You still harming someone else harms you. It's a Buddhist thing. But
Mhm.
like, like yeah, you are damaging yourself when you harm someone else. Even if you have the moral high ground and the right intentions and whatever, you are still doing harm to yourself by doing harm in the world.
Yeah. Morality is separate from the ideals of men. It exists whole somewhere, to be approached but never truly understood by the mortal. The philosophy of ideals. It claimed that removing evil was ultimately moral, and so in destroying evil men, Yasna was justified. From that point of view, I can see it.
Yeah, all she's doing is cycling through different modes of morality and how they view her actions.
Yeah, that's neat. Also, I mean, I don't think it's as simple as the philosophy of ideals makes it out to be. But yes, you're right. She's going through all of these different schools of philosophy and how they view the action. And
Mm.
it feels a little bit like Cope. She's trying to logically walk her way toward admiring Yasna again. Like she
Mm.
lost
She
something
wants
when she
to.
lost that respect, and she's trying to get it
Mm.
back.
She wants to accept these things because this is, hey, it's all in the books, right?
Hmm.
But and that's supposed to be if I have it in books. And yes, we know she's got that arrogance as well that she's like, no, she can do better. She does still respect learning from books, and now she's realizing, I suppose, the lesson that she's going through. Yeah, is like, yeah, cool. You can have all of this thought, this philosophical thought, and whatever, and ponder, but in real life, when you're in action, it feels a lot more different. You do have emotions. As much as you're going to logically go through all of these things, you're going to feel emotions and you're going to have to
Yeah,
deal with them.
yeah. Objective must be weighed against methods. If the goal is worthy, then the steps taken are worthwhile, even if some of them, on their own, are reprehensible. The philosophy of aspiration. It, more than any, called Yasna's actions ethical. Shalon pulled the sheet from her drawing board and tossed it down beside the others, scattered across her bed. Her fingers moved again, clutching the charcoal pencil, begetting a new picture on the blank sheet strapped in place on the table, unable to escape. Her theft nagged at her as much as the killings did. Ironically, Yasna's demand that Shalon study moralistic philosophy forced her to contemplate her own terrible actions. She'd come to Carbronth to steal the Fabrial, then use it to save her brothers and their house from massive debt and destruction. Yet in the end, this wasn't why Shalon had stolen the Soulcaster. She'd taken it because she was angry with Yasna. Well, I'm glad she has that self-awareness.
Yeah. No, she does. That's why we have hope for her. She's not stupid. She's just young.
Yeah. And this does contrast with young Cal's most recent chapter, where he's like, my dad is both a good guy and a bad guy. He's a villain to the Light Eyes in the
Mhm.
town, but he's a good guy to his family. So
Yeah.
Shalon here is perhaps learning that life is gray, just like the
Mhm.
situation with Yasna.
Yeah, exactly. They're learning, and again, that's young Kaladin at like 15 learning this about the world, and then her being a sheltered girl, she's only learning this now.
Yeah. If the intentions were more important than the action, then she had to condemn herself. Perhaps the philosophy of aspiration, which stated that objectives were more important than the steps taken to achieve them, would agree with what she'd done, but that was the philosophy she found most reprehensible. So that means the ends justify the means, right?
The philosophy of aspiration. Yeah.
Objectives were more important than the steps taken to achieve them is a fancy way of saying the
Hmm.
ends justify the
Yeah.
means.
Hmm.
And she finds that concept reprehensible. And I think generally speaking, yeah, the way you get something done matters as much as getting the thing done.
Hmm.
And as we're getting in Well of Ascension, Alendi is a person who makes moral sacrifices, and Elend is someone who is not. And Elend has lost his kingdom, and he's still a good man. Just these are things that are run through my mind as
Hmm.
I go through this.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. He hasn't sacrificed, he hasn't harmed himself actually
Hmm.
for this greater good. Well, beyond he's harming the people by abandoning them, you know. But but yeah, it's not he's not abandoning his principles for the better the for the sake of the greater good.
Yeah. For those who don't know, the Way of Kings episodes are out of sync with the Well of Ascension episodes, but we just recorded, what was it, chapter 50? I think it
Mhm.
was
49. 49.
49. So we're on the heels of Elend and Vin taking off, leaving the city. So you've got some fun episodes ahead for that. Tune in, folks.
Mhm.
Where was I? Shallan sat here sketching, condemning Yasna, but Shallan was the one who had betrayed a woman who had trusted her and taken her in. Now she was planning to commit heresy with the Soulcaster by using it, although she was not an Ardent. The Soulcaster itself lay in the hidden part of Shallan's trunk. 3 days and Yasna had said nothing about the disappearance. She wore the fake each day. She said nothing, acted no differently. Maybe she hadn't tried soul casting. That's what I want to know. Okay, so if she's
Hmm.
worn it, has she tried to use it? And if she has and it isn't working, it makes sense that she would try to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
But would she keep it a secret from Shallan?
What's she gonna yeah, she would. Because what's
Yeah,
Shalon gonna like how's she gonna help? How does she benefit from telling Shalon?
I agree. Almighty send that she didn't go out and put herself into danger again, expecting to be able to use the Fabrial to kill men who attacked her. I'm glad you're thinking
Yeah,
about these, Shallan.
because that's exactly what we thought immediately. We were like, that's gonna happen. That is totally gonna happen, and then you are gonna have to deal with the morality of what you're doing. But she's having this thought before Shalon. I mean, before Yasna goes out and dies. So that's good.
Yeah. Of course, there was one other aspect of that night that Shallan had to think of. She carried a concealed weapon that she hadn't used. She felt foolish for not even thinking of getting it out that night, but she wasn't accustomed to. Shallan froze.
Oh, hold on.
Hmm.
She she held a concealed weapon. It's not a knife. Is that the shard blade?
I
She
think
didn't bring it out.
yeah, I think she's
Yeah,
referring to the shard blade.
and she wasn't accustomed to using it. And whoop, we've got something else.
Shallan froze, realizing for the first time what she'd been drawing. Not another scene from the alleyway, but a lavish room with a thick ornamented rug and swords on the walls, a long dining table set with a half-eaten meal, and a dead man in fine clothing lying face first on the floor, blood pooling around him. She jumped back, tossing aside the charcoal, then crumpled up the paper. No! Shaking, she moved over and sat down on the bed among the pictures. Dropping the crumpled drawing, she raised her fingers to her forehead, feeling the cold sweat there. Sorry I went through that super quickly, but I needed the passage. So you didn't try to identify the person that you drew, which I really want to know. And two, I'm wondering, did you just predict the future? Is this some sort of drawing of an event to come or an important event of the past? And then three, clearly you thinking and just sort of passively drawing as you think has some sort of supernatural element
Well, we
to
have
it.
seen that before. Yes,
Yes, but this is like
this could
second
be it.
time.
Yeah, it could be it because I was expecting like the figures and whatever, or this is her drawing her dead father.
Oh, that could be it too. Good.
'Cause she crumples it up. She's not interested in what she's seen there. She's
Hmm.
like, that's her mind bringing up another memory that's burned into her that she didn't technically take a photo of, 'cause, she does that basically when she captures things. She didn't do that, it was burnt into her, so that would be another moment. It would make sense that another moment like that is something she lands up drawing, and she crumples it up because we don't wanna think about something like that. But that being said, she also does have, because of those figures in that other drawing, I do as well believe that there is this supernatural sort of unlocking that happens as well. But this could be emotional.
Yeah. Something was wrong with her drawings. She had to get out, escape the death, the philosophy, and the questions. She stood and hurriedly strode into the main room of Yasna's quarters. Princess herself was away, researching, as always. She hadn't demanded that Shalon come to the Vale today. Was that because she realized that her ward needed time to think, alone? Or was it because she suspected Shalon of stealing the Soulcaster and no longer trusted her? Shalon hurried through the room. It was furnished only with the basics provided by King Taravangian. Shalon pulled open the door to the hallway and nearly ran into a master servant who had been reaching up to knock. The woman started and Shalon let out a yelp.
Brightness!
The woman said, bowing immediately.
Apologies, but one of your span reeds is flashing.
The woman held up the reed, affixed on the side with a small blinking ruby. Shalon breathed in and out, stilling her heart.
Thank you.
She said. She, like Yasna, left her span reeds in the care of servants because she was often away from her rooms and was likely to miss any attempt to contact her. Okay, I'm very curious what she'll say to her family regarding the Soulcaster. Will she lie? Or will she be like,
Mhm.
I got it and I'm coming back? Or I'm sending it by mail, UPS.
And also,
Don't do that, Shalon.
is this is this revealing a weakness in the span reads? Who can use them? Because it's like that means somebody could read your messages and
Uh,
act like you.
People would have to get used to reading handwriting,
Mhm.
and people would have to presume that the span read will go to a servant first. So you might open up any span read message
Mhm.
with, this is a servant writing on behalf of
Yeah.
Gavilar,
You don't just
looking
run
for
with your secrets. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
looking to contact Kaladin.
Mhm.
Please make me aware when Kaladin is around, something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Still flustered, she was tempted to leave the thing and continue on her way. However, she did need to speak with her brothers, Nambalat particularly, and he'd been away the last few times she'd contacted home. She took the span reed and closed the door. She didn't dare return to her rooms with all of those sketches accusing her. Interesting language there. Sketches
Mhm.
accusing her, but there was a desk and a span reed board in the main room. She sat there, then twisted the ruby.
Yeah. The accusing her thing makes me think of the father and
Mm-hmm.
blood and what.
Yeah, I'm really glad. I totally would have not thought of that at all. So I'm glad you were here with me for it.
Mhm.
Shalon, the reed wrote, are you comfortable? It was a code phrase meant to indicate to her that it was indeed Nambalat, or at least his betrothed, on the other side.
Yay! Okay, we have passwords, right? We have security in this way.
Yay!
My back hurts and my wrist itches.
She wrote back, giving the other half of the code phrase. I'm sorry I missed your other communications, Nambalat sent. I had to attend a feast in Father's name. It was the Sur Kamar, so it wasn't really something I could miss, despite the days of traveling each way.
It's all right.
Shalon wrote. She took a deep breath.
I have the item.
She turned the gem. Whoa! Okay, so there's no giving it back now then, unless you want not
Mhm.
an awkward conversation,
Yep.
which, might be best to live through. But okay, so it sounds like she intends to keep it then.
Yeah, she is confused about her. Well, she knows that her intentions was because she was angry with Yasna, but she's like, "Well, I've got it now." Like, So she's going forward with it,
Mm-hmm.
despite her intentions supposedly being just because of anger. Seems like, yeah, she's keep holding on to it now that she's done it because of those other obligations she had to her family.
The reed was still for a long moment. Finally, a hurried hand wrote, "Praise the heralds. Oh, Shalon, you've done it! You are on your way back to us, then? How can you use the span reed on the ocean? Are you in port?"
I haven't left.
Shalon wrote. "What? Why?"
Okay, so hold on. Sorry, just a thing to remember is you can't use a span reed on the ocean.
Yes. Good lore. Good note.
I haven't left
Shalon wrote. "What? Why?"
because it would be too suspicious.
She wrote.
Think about it, Nunbalat. If Yasna tries the item and finds it broken, she might not immediately decide that she's been had. That changes if I've suddenly and suspiciously left for home. I have to wait until she's made the discovery, then see what she does next. If she realizes that her Fabrial was replaced with a fake, then I can deflect her toward other culprits. She's already suspicious of the Ardentia. If, on the other hand, she assumes that her Fabrial has broken somehow, I'll know we're free.
She twisted the gem, setting the span reed in place. Yeah, that's all reasonable. I
Mhm.
think she isn't quite ready to leave yet, personally, but that
Mhm.
is all reasonable excuses.
That's we already spoke about those. They're they're a good plan.
Yeah. The question she'd been expecting came next. And if she immediately assumes that you did it? Shalon, what if you can't deflect her suspicion? What if she orders a search of your chambers and they find the hidden compartment? She picked up the pen.
Then it is still better for me to be here.
She wrote.
Balat, I have learned much about Yasna Kolin. She is incredibly focused and determined. She will not let me escape if she thinks I have robbed her. She will hunt me down and will use all of her resources to exact retribution. We'd have our own king and high princes on our property in days, demanding that we turn over the Fabrial. Stormfather, I bet Yasna has contacts in Jakaved that she could reach before I got back. I'd find myself in custody the moment I landed. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Rather let her be taken, and it's just her, and she's not doing it on behalf of her brothers or anything like that. And then the brothers have a fighting chance.
Mm-hmm.
Our only hope is to deflect her. If that doesn't work, better for me to be here and suffer her wrath quickly. Likely she would take the Soulcaster and banish me from her sight. If we make her work and chase after me, though, she can be very ruthless, Balat. It would not go well for us.
Maybe sending it UPS wouldn't be the worst idea.
Yeah, because what about the compartment? I don't know, but yeah, we've got mention of all of this stuff. Better burn this immediately.
Yep. The response was long in coming. "When did you get so good at logic, small one?" he finally sent. "I see that you've thought this through, better than I have at least. But Shalon, our time is running out."
I know.
She wrote.
You said you could hold things together for a few more months. I ask you to do that. Give me 2 or 3 weeks at least to see what Yasna does. Besides, while I'm here, I can look into how the thing works. I haven't found any books that give hints, but there are so many here. Maybe I just haven't found the right one yet.
"Very well," he wrote. "A few weeks. Be careful, small one. The men who gave father his Fabrial visited again. They asked after you. I'm worried about them, even more than I worry about our finances. They disturb me in a profound way. Farewell."
Farewell.
She wrote back. Why doesn't, because now that they know that she has it, why doesn't one of
Mm-hmm.
them go and collect it from her? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey sis, it's been so long. I wanted to check in on you, and I'm gonna bring home a bunch of souvenirs. So,
Mm-hmm.
do something like that.
Maybe they can't leave and they've got to attend. But yeah, there are enough brothers for this to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it is quite a journey to go on, I suppose. It'll take a while.
yeah,
So, and also, yeah, the Fabrial, who's going to use it out of
yeah.
them?
It's gonna have to be
And
Shalon,
would
I
yeah,
guess.
could these people that are after the Fabrial come to Shalon and get it from her now? Then
Yeah, but I get the sense that Non-Balat is overprotective of Shalon, is like, you stay away from my sister, you deal with me, kind of a thing. Because I got the sense that what the way they were asking about her was like, we could hurt her. We don't want to,
Mhm.
but we could hurt her if we have to. Give us what's ours.
Oh, okay.
But I could be
Hostage-ish.
reading into that entirely.
Mhm.
But it's the vibe I got.
Mhm.
So far, there had been no hint of reaction from the princess. She hadn't even mentioned the soulcaster. That made Shalon nervous. She wished that Yasna would just say something. The waiting was excruciating. Each day while she sat with Yasna, Shalon's stomach churned with anxiety until she was nauseated. At least, considering the killings a few days ago, Shalon had a very good excuse for looking disturbed. Cold, calm logic, Yasna herself would be proud. A knock came at the door, and Shalon quickly gathered up the conversation she'd had with Nambalat and burnt it in the hearth. A palace maid entered a moment later, carrying a basket in the crook of her arm. She smiled at Shalon. It was time for the daily cleaning. Ooh, make sure those things are burnt fully.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I'm wondering, can you do that thing where you read people's conversations by like because this is handwriting. If you just put some basically like some charcoal or whatever over the paper, you can see
And she has charcoal in the room,
writing.
probably.
Yeah. Guys, I'm paranoid about the security of these bloody span reads, okay?
Ditto.
Mm.
Shalon had a strange moment of panic at seeing the woman. She wasn't one of the maids Shalon recognized. What if Yesna had sent her or someone else to search Shalon's room? Had she done so already? Shalon nodded to the woman, and then, to assuage her worries, she walked to her room and closed the door. She rushed to the chest and checked the hidden compartment. The Fabrial was there. She lifted it out, inspecting it. Would she know if Yesna somehow reversed the exchange?
Mm. Okay, that makes sense.
I was gonna call her paranoid, but then I saw her next
Mm.
line.
You're being foolish.
She told herself.
Yasna's subtle, but she's not that subtle.
And I thought you were going to say something, Kitty, for a second there.
Look, it's a possibility. You've got to consider all the possibilities. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I do that. I consider all the possibilities when I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on in a Sanderson book. Okay.
Yes. And if there's one thing Sanderson is fairly good at, it's detailing the many possible things
Mhm.
that a character could conceive of doing in a situation that they're in.
Mhm.
It seems to be part of his style, the way he likes to write his characters, is to have them think out, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this.
Mhm.
Still, Shalon stuffed the soulcaster in her safe pouch. It just barely fit inside the envelope-like cloth container. She'd feel safer knowing she had it on her while the maid cleaned her room. Besides, the safe pouch might be a better hiding place for it than her trunk. By tradition, a
Mm.
woman's safe pouch— what?
I don't know, but I don't know. Keeping it on you, I suppose. Yeah, you could. But let's see. We get more explanation of the safe pouch.
By tradition, a woman's safe pouch was where she kept items of intimate or very precious import. To search one would be like strip searching her. Considering her rank, either would be virtually unthinkable unless you were obviously implicated in a crime. Yasna could probably force it, but if Yasna could do that, she could order a search of Shalon's room, and her trunk would be under particular scrutiny. The truth was, if Yasna chose to suspect her, there would be little Shalon could do to hide the Fabrial, so the safe pouch was as good a place as any. She gathered up the pictures she'd drawn and put them upside down on the desk, trying not to look at them. She didn't want those to be seen by the maid. Finally, she left, taking her portfolio. She felt that she needed to get outside and escape for a while, draw something other than death and murder. The conversation with Nambalat had only served to upset her more. I have to go back and reread that about the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So besides the ones she crumbled up, she placed the others upside down. Okay. I don't
Those are
think—
the ones of the murder.
yeah.
Well, of what Yasna did, and she just puts them upside down. Like, bro, maids can lift stuff and look,
Yeah, that's
but
exactly
I
what I
guess
thought.
yeah. But then there's just plausible deniability. It's just like, well, so yeah, I just drew Yasna being a badass because I like the idea. But if you have a report of three men doing like dying, and then a pillar of crystal man being in the middle of the road, and then you see this picture. Mm, I
Yep.
think you would think of Yasna. So sure, just turn it over. That'll be fun. I
Yep.
don't want the maid to see it because she could never. She would. She would never, as a maid, spy on me and look under things.
Yep.
Brightness.
The maid asked. Shalon froze, but the maid held up a basket.
This was dropped off for you with the master servants.
I bet it's a gift from Cabsol.
Yeah, it's jam.
She hesitantly accepted it, looking inside. Bread and jam. Yep. A note tied to one of the jars read, Blue Bar Jam. If you like it, it means you're mysterious, reserved, and thoughtful. It was signed, Cabsol. Shalon placed the basket's handle in the crook of her safe arm's elbow. Cabsol. Maybe she should go find him. She always felt better after a conversation with him. No, don't trust him. But no, she was going to leave. She couldn't keep stringing him or herself along. Oh, good. Good,
Oh,
Shalon.
so
I'm
she has a
impressed.
little bit there. She can't string him along, yes, but she's like herself along. Okay, so
Hmm.
yes, I suppose you are stringing yourself along by stringing someone else along. You're pretending that you're not doing something cruel.
Hmm.
You're stringing yourself along, saying, "No, it's fine. It's innocent. It's cool." No, it's not.
She was afraid of where the relationship was going. Instead, she made her way to the main cavern and then to the conclave's exit. She walked out into the sunlight and took a deep breath, looking up into the sky as servants and attendants parted around her, swarming in and out of the conclave. She held her portfolio close, feeling the cool breeze on her cheeks and the contrasting warmth of the sunlight pressing down on her hair and forehead. In the end, the most disturbing part was that Yasna had been right. Shalon's world of simple answers had been a foolish, childish place. She'd clung to the hope that she could find truth and use it to explain, perhaps justify, what she had done back in Yakaved. But if there was such a thing as truth, it was far more complicated and murky than she'd assumed. Some problems didn't seem to have any good answers, just a lot of wrong ones. She could choose the source of her guilt, but she couldn't choose to be rid of that guilt entirely. Excellent passage and
Ooh.
very cinematically
Mhm.
written.
Mhm. And you go, "What has she done back in Yakovich? What has she
Hmm.
done back there?" Again, just another reminder, you don't know. Thank you, Sanderson.
Yeah, and
So we have
hey,
all the feelings about this thing that that happened. We get all of that described to us, but we don't know what the thing is. It's a
yeah,
lot of fun.
yep. But hey, she's growing up in big ways.
Mhm. Yeah.
2 hours, and about 20 quick sketches later, Shalon felt far more relaxed. She sat in the palace gardens, sketchpad in her lap, drawing snails. The gardens weren't as extensive as her father's, but they were far more varied, not to mention blessedly secluded. Like many modern gardens, they were designed with walls of cultivated shale bark. Okay, so this is probably the picture we saw the other chapter.
Yeah, that is it.
Yeah. This one's made a maze of living stone. They were short enough that, when standing, she could see the way back to the entrance. But if she sat down on one of the numerous benches, she could feel alone and unseen. She'd asked a groundskeeper the name of the most prominent shalebark plant. He'd called it plated stone, a fitting name as it grew in thin, round sections that piled atop one another like plates in a cupboard. Oof, I got Subnautica flashbacks right then and there. To the mushroom
Okay.
forest and to some of the items. Anyway, from the sides, it looked like weathered rock that exposed hundreds of thin strata. Tiny little tendrils grew up out of pores, waving in the wind. The stone-like casings had a bluish shade, but the tendrils were yellowish. Her current subject was a snail with a low horizontal shell edged with little ridges. Well, that's interesting. I mean, we saw it in the picture, obviously, but a
Mhm.
horizontal shell for a snail, very flat.
I think that there are some of those in the sea. So we're getting a lot, like you said, undersea things. It looks like coral.
Hmm.
This if we go back to that picture. So
Yeah.
all of this is like on the surface stuff that we would have seen in the water, you know?
Yeah. When she tapped, it would flatten itself into a rift in the shale bark, appearing to become part of the plated stone. It blended in perfectly. When she let it move, it nibbled at the shale bark, but didn't chew it away.
It's cleaning the shell bark.
she realized, continuing her sketch.
Eating off the lichen and mold.
Indeed, a cleaner trail extended behind it. Patches of a different kind of shale bark, with finger-like protrusions growing up into the air from a central knob, grew alongside the plated stone. When she looked closely, she noted little cremlings, thin and multi-legged, crawling along it, eating at it. Were they, too, cleaning it?
Curious.
She thought, beginning a sketch of the miniature cremlings. They had carapaces shaded like the shale bark's fingers, while the snail's shell was a near duplicate of the yellow and blue colorings of the plated stone. It was as if they had been designed by the Almighty in pairs, the plant giving safety to the animals cleaning the plant. Yep, a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, is she going to figure something out about how she's gonna have to use this kind of mechanism in her escape from guilt, oh, well, not guilt, escape from Yasna. I don't know. She's got to try and
Hmm.
figure out a symbiotic relationship with Yasna.
It's like Sazed's lock and key metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
A few lifespren, tiny glowing green specks, floated around the shale bark mounds. Some danced amid the rifts in the bark, others in the air like dust motes zigzagging up, only to fall again. She used a finer tipped charcoal pencil to scribble some thoughts about the relationship between the animals and the plants. She didn't know of any books that spoke of relationships like this one. Scholars seemed to prefer studying big dynamic animals, like great shells or white spines, but this seemed a beautiful, wondrous discovery to Shalon. I like that. That's an endearing.
Really? Yeah, that is an endearing thing, and her curiosity is endearing, and that's what we liked about her in the beginning, anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wait a second, are there really is there really no one studying this? Good lord, you got that many books, and not one of them is about this. But yeah, I'd agreed.
It
I
makes
suppose that's what
sense
happened.
culturally.
Yeah. That yes, for them, they only care about big things and war and whatever. So snails and plants can help one another,
She thought.
but I betray Yasna.
Ooh, is this where she's gonna decide to come clean and beg Yasna for help for her family?
I don't know, but that's why I thought that all of this thinking is going to be some sort of frame for her to think about herself.
Hmm. She glanced toward her safe hand and the pouch hidden inside. She felt more secure having the soulcaster near. She hadn't yet dared try to use it. She'd been too nervous about the theft, and had worried about using the object near Yasna. Now, however, she was in a nook deep within the maze, with only one curving entrance into her dead end. Ooh, don't use it. Do not
No,
use it. Do
no,
not
it's still
try.
in broad daylight. Yeah, what the hell?
Oh no. She stood up casually, looking around. No one else was in the gardens, and she was far enough inside that it would take minutes for anyone to get to her. Shalon sat back down, setting aside her drawing pad and pencil.
I might as well see if I can figure out how to use it.
She thought.
Maybe there's no need to keep searching the Palladium for a solution.
So long as she stood up and glanced about periodically, she could be certain she wouldn't be approached or seen by accident. Oh, but what
Sure,
happens if you
sure.
turn what happens if you turn the whole
Yeah.
place to stone or something?
Yeah. You don't know the power of this. But you know what? Her curiosity is getting the best of her.
Yeah. She removed the forbidden device. It was heavy in her hand, solid. Taking a deep breath, she looped the chains over her fingers and around her wrist, the gemstones set against the back of her hand. The metal was cold, the chains loose. She flexed her hand, pulling the fabrial tight. She'd anticipated a feeling of power, prickles on her skin perhaps, or a sense of strength and might, but there was nothing. She tapped the 3 gemstones. She'd placed her smokestone into the 3rd setting. Some other fabrials, like span reeds, worked when you tapped the stones, but that was foolish, as she'd never seen Yasna do that. The woman just closed her eyes and touched something, soul casting it. Smoke, crystal, and fire were what this soulcaster was best at. Only once had she seen Yasna create anything else. So I think the way you activate it is linked to what Yasna had said about truly wanting those men dead. I think it's a
Mhm.
desire thing. You have to will the change to happen. That's my
True. Yeah.
guess.
It's in your mind. It's mind magic, mind
Yeah.
focus magic.
Hesitant, Shalon took a piece of broken shale bark from the base of one of the plants. She'd held it up in her free hand, then closed her eyes.
Become smoke.
She commanded. Nothing happened.
Become crystal.
She commanded instead. She cracked an eye. There was no change.
Fire, burn. Your fire. You.
She paused, realizing the stupidity of that. A mysteriously burned hand? No, that wouldn't be at all suspicious. Instead, she focused on Crystal. She closed her eyes again, holding the image of a piece of quartz in her mind. She tried to will the shale bark to change. Well, at least she's thinking what we were thinking, so there's that.
Yeah. I'm getting the go web scene from Spider from
Go,
Spider-Man.
Web, go!
When he's going fly. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
I'm getting those vibes. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. I don't know if it's going to happen this first try. I don't think so. It's not easy.
Yeah.
She needs to. And you know what? I'm glad nothing's happening. Okay, we don't need a whole pillar of stone or some shit like this to explain, or a
Yeah.
burnt hand, as she. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing happened, so she just tried focusing, imagining the shale bark transforming. After a few minutes of failure, she tried making the pouch change instead, then tried the bench, then tried one of her hairs. Nothing worked. Shalon checked to make certain she was still alone, then sat down, frustrated. Nambalat had asked Luash how the devices worked, and he'd said that it was easier to show than explain. He'd promised to give them answers if she actually managed to steal Yasna's. Now he was dead. Was she doomed to carry this one back to her family, only to immediately give it away to those dangerous men, never using it to gain wealth to protect her house, all because they didn't know how to activate it?
Sure, I understand that. I can understand that that would be frustrating, but I think giving it to the dangerous men is a form of protecting your house because they're deeply disturbing.
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. It won't pay the debts, but it'll get that group off her back, and I get the sense that
Hopefully.
that group is particularly dangerous.
Mhm.
The other fabrials she'd used had been simple to activate, but those were constructs by contemporary artifabrians. Soulcasters were fabrials from ancient times. They wouldn't employ modern methods of activation. She stared at the glowing gemstones suspended on the back of her hand. How would she figure out the method of using a tool thousands of years old, one forbidden to any but Ardents? She slid the soulcaster back into her safe pouch. It seemed she was back to searching the Palladium. That or asking Capsol. But would she manage that without looking suspicious? Ooh, is she going to try to get answers out of Capsol?
Yeah, that'll be as subtle as a damn knife. That's not going to work.
Yeah. She broke out his bread and jam, eating and thinking idly. If Capsol didn't know, and if she couldn't find the answers by the time she left Carbronth, were there other options? If she took the artifact to the Veden King, or maybe the Ardents, might they be able to protect her family in exchange for the gift? After all, she couldn't really be blamed for stealing from a heretic, and so long as Yesna didn't know who had the Soulcaster, they would be safe. Ooh, that's going public with your thievery, and I don't think that's great.
Yeah, that's relying on their gratitude and not their scorn because
Yeah.
you
And
stole.
it would
Yeah.
be it would be a betrayal of friendship, which seems much
Mhm.
worse because it's like it's one thing to switch soulcasters and make her think hers broke, which is bad enough, but to
Mhm.
steal it and then essentially
Condemn her with it.
condemn her with it to profit from being the
Mhm.
one to take it away from her,
Mhm.
to turn her into some sort of celebrity, some sort of it was an act of justice. She got it from the heretic.
Mhm.
That's just
Mhm.
downright cruel.
Mhm. Well, look here.
For some reason, that made her feel even worse. Stealing the Soulcaster to save her family was one thing, but turning it over to the very Ardents whom Yesna disdained seemed a greater betrayal. Oh, yep, there you go.
That's what I meant. Like, you see? It's exactly what you thought.
Yet another difficult decision,
Well, then,
she thought.
it's a good thing Yasna is so determined to train me in how to deal with those. By the time all this is done, I should be quite the expert.
End chapter.
Mhm.
Okay. Not a bad chapter. We got some needed answers, I think,
I got more questions, man.
and more questions. I'm happy with that chapter. I have no
Mhm.
issue that I can think of at this moment.
Nope, I enjoyed it, especially the go web scene, basically. Mhm.
Agreed. I liked the growth.
Mhm. Yeah, and she's going to be a growth expert.
Indeed.
Mm.
And she's
But
surrounded
yeah,
by
that maid is
lifespan.
suspicious. Yeah, it's Lifespring, but she's that maid, man. I'm suspicious. I'm paranoid about everything.
Me too.
Thank you, Sanderson.
It's like I'm playing a D&D game. No matter what kind of character I make, I, the player, end up being crazy paranoid over every little thing the DM is gonna screw me over with somehow.
Yeah, you're like, "No, oh, really? It is an apple? Hmm." Like, it's like, "No, just please, we need to get to the next part of the story. No, I need to inspect this apple." Yeah. Mm.
Anything else to say?
Like the video.
If you like. Thank y'all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to that darn kid if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next time. Okay,
Okay,
thanks,
thanks,
bye.
bye.